Hey, welcome to another edition of Scott Wheeler's Airplay. This is episode number 22, airing right now on the Peoria Life Facebook page. And you can watch it later, past episodes, of course, future episodes at PeoriaLife.com, Peoria Life's Facebook page, Peoria Life's YouTube channel, or over on Peoria TV, which is channel 17 on the i3 broadband system. My name is Scott Wheeler from Super Hits WIRL, and Airplay is all about getting to know those radio and TV personalities that you listen to or watch every day, but we go behind the curtain a little bit and get to know them better. My guest today we just figured out when we were both 19 or 20 years old a long time ago in a friend's driveway in Galesburg, Illinois, and I heard so much about this guy who could fix anything. It's Jon Symmonds from 99.9 WWCT. John, welcome to Airplay.
Thank you, sir.
So do you remember that auspicious meeting at all?
Yes, I do. I do remember it.
You were driving a cool car.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love, man, I'd give that my right arm to have that car back. That was a 1968 Chevy 2 Nova SS.
I saw that car and I thought, well, this guy's got to be cool. Look at that car.
Yeah, I don't remember what color it was at that time.
I feel like orange or red.
Yeah, okay. That was after I'd already done the work to it, because when I got that car, it was what they call Palomino Ivory, and it was the most ugly color you'd ever seen in your life.
So you colored it puke orange.
Yeah, it was fire engine red.
Okay, yeah. So that's kind of where it all began for you back in the day in Galesburg, Illinois. Where did this love for, because the thing our mutual friend said about you was literally, if it's electronic, this kid, and you were, can fix it. How did that all start for you?
My dad worked for Sears as a television repairman. He also dabbled in broadcast engineering at a college station in Galesburg. Mm-hmm. And so he was driving electronics into my head by the time I was 3. I mean, I could barely talk, and I'm
capacitor, Dad.
Doing stuff like that. And that's basically how I got my start. Was tinkering.
Yeah,
just tinkering.
So were you the AV guy at high school?
Yes, I was.
Of course you were. So was I. So did you have to fix everybody's stereo system for them?
We had, in high school, we had vocational electronics. And the rule of thumb was the teacher would give you the test for the end of the week at the beginning of the week. And if you got an A on that test, you didn't have to sit out there and pay attention to what was going on for 2 hours a day. So what I would do is I'd bring kids 8-track players in and stuff like this, and I'd make money back there while other people are, And besides that, I was a ham operator. We had a nice ham station at the high school, so if I didn't have anything to fix, I'd just get on the air for a couple hours.
Wow. And you're one of those unique individuals, and we'll talk about that you've really followed 2 different passions and got to do them both. Music on air,
yes,
and then engineering at the same time. But back in Galesburg, then you worked for some of the local radio stations there as their chief engineer. You had to be 21 years old when you did that.
You're right.
That's a lot of responsibility.
I started at WAIK, which unfortunately went dark just earlier this year.
That.
And but I started working on their equipment. I remember the first transmitter I ever worked on. The minute I saw it, I was like, I mean, this thing, we called it the box car. That's how big it was. It was an old Collins 21E, which doesn't mean anything to anybody, but it looked like a box car. It was huge.
Like everything else technological, back in the day, everything was so much bigger.
Yeah.
There were transmitters, radio transmitters you could literally walk into.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And now that same transmitter might be the size of,
Yeah, a couple of rack spaces in the rack. Yeah.
Just amazing.
I remember Channel 31's transmitter.
Oh,
You could get lost inside that thing.
You needed a flashlight, a miner's helmet.
Yeah.
So you started doing stuff in Galesburg, and then along in the mid-'80s, and this is where I will And it's a good thing you still work there, because I can't get these call letters and Jon Symmonds out of my mind together. You went to what was then WWCT Rock 106. When was that?
That was May 20th of 1985.
Oh boy, he knows the date.
Well, the reason I know the date is because my birthday's on the 21st.
Okay,
So
happy
it was
birthday,
like
got a job.
Exactly.
So did they hire you for technical work mostly?
No.
It was to be on the air
It was
first?
to be on the air.
Interesting. I thought it was the other way around.
It was to be on the air. We had Neil Burke as our chief engineer. Everybody remembers Neil from the area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was one of his catchphrases.
Yes.
He said that all the time. But slowly but surely, Neil and our fictitious owner, who we called Hector Stumwitz back in the day, they got a little bit comfortable with me, and they decided, okay, yeah, he can start doing some of this stuff.
Interesting.
So that's how that happened.
Do you remember what airship did you start at?
I came over and was interviewed to do evenings. And somewhere along the way, somewhere from where I said I would take and do the job, and the day I went on the air, something happened. So
As often does.
I was thrown into afternoons.
Oh, wow.
And I'm from a small town, man, and here I am. This is the radio station I've listened to since the late 70s, and here I am doing afternoons. I mean, that was a stressful time.
So you eventually started doing the technical stuff too. And the thing I remember about back in the day at WWCT is you guys moved all the time.
Oh, I know it.
I mean, and that is not, for those who've never moved a radio station, that's not an easy thing to do.
Not. And I don't really know why that was. When I got there, I'm trying to remember, ratings played an important part in everything. And we were like mid-book. And then it grew. I mean, it just exploded. And I think what happened was, I think the owner decided that we needed to quit living out of a shoebox and start, looking the part. So I think that's why we ended up moving so many times. But
I remember, of course, the curve on Main, and you were on Hamilton. You were telling me a funny story off the air about the time at Hamilton and some of the equipment malfunctions.
Oh, when we were on Hamilton Boulevard, that building was boiler heat.
Okay.
So it was very, very dry in there. Well, and we played records in the day. So you got two Techniques turntables side by side. Now, the problem with a very dry building and Techniques turntables is you can't move in the studio. Everything generates static electricity. So you got the Simple Minds playing over here or whatever. You turn around to look at the weather forecast, you accidentally touch something, sparks fly, and the turntable now is going 45 RPM.
Simple Minds now sound like the Chipmunks.
Yes. And that happened all the time. All the time.
And yet, in today, you're in studios out on in Pioneer Park, and you had to move them again.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you just need a plug-and-play kind of setup.
Yeah, I agree. I think that sounds like a good idea.
We've had a couple of other WWCT Rock 106 alums on Airplay, Rick Hirschman and Jamie Markley, and they all have the deepest regard, as well they should, for that time you refer to, that mid-'80s to late '80s heyday of Rock 106. I ask them their impressions of what it felt like to be there. I got to ask you too. What? Because you were kind of coming at it from a different angle. You were on the air, but also doing the technical stuff. So, what do you remember most?
I remember probably the most, and this is for anybody that's ever flown that high, and I know you probably have the same feeling too from your days back at KZ. You didn't think it was ever going to end. And then when things started shifting, it's like, what did we do? And it was an awesome time to be in radio, just an amazing time. And the people I worked with, Jamie and Rick and We were a family.
Yeah.
We had, which is really pretty much unheard of these days, but we had a one-man owner, you know, and which CT still does have a one-man owner, but that's not common.
No. And I think that's, you know, just from my perspective, being over at KZ93, it was a more of a corporate, it was a family, but it was more of a corporate environment because we had the AM and the TV. And there was a longing kind of for what you guys had at WWCT, because it really was a grassroots radio station that grew up through, as my mom used to say, chewing gum and baling wire to put it together. And it grew up with this organic sense about it that turned into just a monster of a popular radio station. And it was from just really a small, tight-knit group of guys and girls that rolled up their sleeves and just played some rock and roll, and it became something. It was like watching a baby grow, where I felt like I was already at an adult where I worked. So it was cool to watch from the outside.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, a lot of sweat.
I believe it. We're talking to Jon Symmonds of WWCT 99.9 World Class Rock on Airplay today. And now I want to take you back to probably the best radio story in Central Illinois that I don't know if you planned to be a part of this or what the deal was, but it was a controversial ownership struggle, and you'll have to help me with the year, in which WWCT was kind of bouncing between two owners who were arguing over details of a sale, and you and our buddy Wayne R. Miller literally took back a radio station. And you pick up the story from there. I just remember Jon Symmonds, Wayne R. Miller, pirate radio.
Yep. Yeah. I still to this day don't know what
what happened.
What really happened. All I know is that I got a call from Hector Stumwitz, and he said, "It's over." I said, "Okay, what does that mean?" "That means get your butt over here in that big red van of yours." So we went over to the, quote, other owners. Like I say, I don't know what happened, but Hector said, grab a screwdriver and go in and start taking stuff out. And we didn't have studios. We didn't have anything. I was like, what are we going to do? And he said, "I don't know, you figure it out."
So let's back up a second. So Hector had sold the radio station to this other guy.
Right.
He's long gone, Bob Kelly. And Bob had started operating WWCT, Rock 106. Something went bad in the deal. That's when you get the call that says, "Get your red van over here and start taking our stuff back."
Exactly.
So it's like buying a pair of shoes and then the original owner says, "I want my shoes back," and you had to go get the shoes.
So I recruited Wayne to help me because Wayne has an engineering background.
Yeah.
And we threw all this stuff in the back of the van, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, "Transmitter site?" And okay, let's do it. And man, that was the longest weekend because it was literally Wayne and I manning the place. We did find some other people that would eventually help us out.
So you're broadcasting from the transmitter site. With some of the equipment you've pulled out, maybe some of your own. You threw together this radio station.
Yeah.
That really didn't have an owner technically.
Exactly.
And how long did that go on?
It went on at the transmitter site. I remember that weekend. Wayne ran it for like 12 hours, then I'd run it for like 12 hours while the other one went and slept. You know, my poor wife was bringing us whatever she could, food, water, you know.
Fans, because transmitter sites are notoriously hot.
There's no restrooms out there. So
you and the bunnies.
That was a long weekend. That was a lot of fun. If asked to do it again, I'd decline.
Do you know people still talk about that though to this day? I'm telling you, it's going to go down in history as one of the great radio moments in Peoria.
We were interviewed back in the day. Like I mentioned before, I'm a ham radio operator, and one of the ham radio magazines actually got a hold of us and wanted to know what the heck went on in Peoria, and we could only talk about, certain aspects of it. But
well, it eventually all got settled out, and then a new owner comes along, and that's where Jon is today at 99.9 WWCT. So are you you're still on the air, or you're kind of coming off the air there? What's going on?
I'm not doing really a daily air shift anymore. My true love, really, through all the years, has been the equipment. I did the on-air thing. I originally started doing the on-air thing just so I could be full-time. And I've never thought I was very good at it. And as a matter of fact, everybody wears headphones, right, when they're on the air? I have never worn a set of headphones in my life. I hate the sound of my voice.
Yeah.
So, I'm currently transitioning. I still do my Vintage Vinyl segment in the afternoons. And we're going to kind of be resurrecting, quote, what used to be the 106s.
Oh, awesome.
As a new program on Sunday mornings that'll be called CT's Vintage Brunch.
Great.
So,
I used to love the 106s.
Yeah, I did too. I really did. I enjoyed that a whole lot. A little piece of history. Every radio station, most of the call signs in this around the area have a meaning. WMBD, World's Most Beautiful Drive.
Right.
You know what WWCT is?
I did, but it escapes me.
We work for Caterpillar Tractor.
That's right.
Yeah.
Didn't they try to call it the Cat at
They
one
did.
point? Cat said, no, you're not.
Exactly. But that's where that came from. And Hector Stumwitz told me that story many, many years ago.
Now you can win your next Trivial Pursuit contest, thanks to Jon Symmonds. Now, before we go, you and I share something so unique, and I just think this is so cool. Your daughter actually works also at WWCT on the air.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes, she does.
You made the same mistake I did, because my daughter went into radio as well. You took her to too many transmitter sites.
Yes, I did.
You?
I certainly did.
Jon?
And she followed in my footsteps. She's my assistant. She's doing engineering.
That is awesome.
And on the air, too. And she does traffic and just about everything else. So you know how radio works.
Yeah.
We all wear 1,000 of these. Yeah.
So how does that make you proud? Does that scare you? How do you feel about that?
Way back when my dad told me, don't ever go into radio. Don't ever go into radio. It's very unstable. It's a bad thing to do. Don't even think about it. Well, you know what? Here I am. I started in 1979, and I'm still doing it, and I'm still employed, so it worked for me. Why can't it work for her,
And she'll bring her own version of the Symmonds way.
Exactly.
Too. I can remember you did some work for WCIC when I was there, and I can remember you showing up on a Saturday or Sunday late afternoon to work on something, and there she was.
Yep.
Wrench, screwdriver, voltage meter. I think your wife was there too. It's like a family affair.
Probably, yeah.
You guys must have just a riveting dinner conversation. I saw a transmitter today.
It can be interesting.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Jon, don't sell yourself short. You are great on the air.
Oh.
You're a pleasure to listen to. You always have been for so many years, and the fact that you can do that and then turn around and fix the thing that just broke is, I think, makes you an invaluable person to Peoria
Well, I
Radio.
appreciate that. I really do.
Thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you, sir, and I enjoy listening to you as well.
Thank you. It's Airplay with Scott Wheeler from Super Hits WIRL. Remember, you can see this episode and others at PeoriaLife.com. On the Peoria Life Facebook page, they have a YouTube channel as well, or you'll see it on Peoria TV if you have the i3 broadband system in your house. You'll see that on channel 17. We'll have another special guest next week on Airplay. Until then, thanks for watching.
PeoriaLife.com.